Closing the year in Sage Accpac ERP is a rather painless exercise. In this tutorial, we'll review the major year-end tasks and walk you through the process. Please note that this tutorial is not intended to cover all year-end issues, and we strongly suggest that you consult with us as well as the user manuals for further guidance. Let's start by reviewing the year-end steps, which are completing year-end housekeeping tasks, creating the new fiscal year in Common Services, creating the new year in the General Ledger, and finally, running year-end in AR and AP. Let's take a closer look at the year-end housekeeping tasks. In AR and AP, make sure that you've entered all invoices. And if you're using the recurring charge feature, create your recurring charge batches, then make sure all batches are posted in AR and AP, and also to the GL, and finally, print your audit trail. Before we move to the next step, make sure that you've backed up your data. Now let's move to step 2, creating the new fiscal year. To do this, we'll go to Common Services, then click the Fiscal Calendar icon. Now here we simply hit the New button, then Add, and now we have a new year for processing. Now we're ready for step 3, running the General Ledger year-end process. Let's first verify some of our setup options before we run the process. So we'll go to GL Setup and click on Options and select the Account tab. Here you need to make sure that you have a default closing account. In fact, the account shown here should be a retained earnings account, which it is. You also need to look at your history settings under the Posting tab. We recommend that you keep as much history as possible since storage is cheap. In the current version of Sage Accpac ERP, you can have a maximum of 7 years of history in the 100 and 200 editions and up to 99 years in the 500 edition. In this sample data set, the history is set to retain 3 years of fiscal sets and 3 years of transaction details. So in this case, if our current year is 2010, then we have history back to 2008. But when we create the new year, our oldest history will be 2009 based on the 3-year setting here. Once you verify these settings, you can save and close the screen. And now we'll go to GL Periodic Processing and then the Create New Year icon. At this point, you're ready to create the new year in your GL. Before we begin this step, let's review what happens when we run the new year process. The new year process is going to set up a new operating environment for the year 2011. It's also going to remove any historical transactions based on the history settings that we just reviewed. It's also going to create and post transfers of balances of income and expense accounts to retained earnings. So let's go ahead and hit the Process button and let the system run through the paces of setting up the accounts for the new year's transactions. While we're watching, it's creating a batch that puts the beginning balances in for the new year and closes out or zeroes out all of the income and expense accounts or P&L accounts to retained earnings, and it's also changing the current fiscal year into the next fiscal year. And that's all there is to it. Now let's look at step 4, which is the optional step of running year-end in accounts receivable and accounts payable. We'll go to Accounts Receivable, then Periodic Processing, and click the year-end icon, and we'll look at the options. The steps here are similar to those in AP. The Reset All Batch Numbers option should never be selected unless you have a very limited space for data storage. Resetting all batch numbers takes away much of the drill-down capabilities in Sage Accpac, so we recommend never selecting this option. Now, clearing activities is a different story. In the Clear Activity Statistics option, most companies will choose to clear activity statistics. What we're doing here is zeroing out all of the current year statistics in the customer groups, and national accounts records and moving current year activity into the previous year so that we're starting with a clean slate for the new year. Our next option here is for companies that use the recurring charge feature, and by selecting this option, all of your recurring charge statistics to date will be zeroed out. In order to see the effect of Clear Invoices Paid and Days to Pay counter, let's take a look at the AR Customer Statistics form. If you select Clear Invoices Paid and Days to Pay counter, The corresponding information here will be zeroed out, so if you do not want the average days to pay to include previous year's data, make sure you do not select this option. And at this point, you're ready to click the Process button and complete the year-end process for AR, and again, you would follow similar steps in AP. And that completes our tutorial. So to recap, closing the year in Sage Accpac ERP is a rather painless exercise, and we've provided an overview of the major tasks that you'll need to perform. This tutorial wasn't intended to comprehensively address all year-end issues, so we suggest that you consult with us and review the user manuals prior to running your year-end procedures. Well, that's it for this tutorial. Bye for now.